I decided to make a video about this. It's a specific configuration of nodes which you may eventually stumble upon while learning TouchDesigner. It looks weird, but that's an essential part of some networks. And I have an assumption that there is sort of a cargo cult happening around this. When you add this to a network only because you've seen somebody else do it, and without it nothing is working, while you may not completely understand what does it actually do. And that's fine, in my opinion, because we don't necessarily need to understand everything. I'm not sure it's even possible. But this particular thing, it's not so complicated. If you understand this, it may save you a lot of time and nerves in future when you'll be creating your own networks. Since this is useless without context, let's first create a simple network. Go to the palette and choose Particles GPU under the Tools tab. Let's add a null, display, and place an RGB key top in between to fill the background. Let's reseat the camera. You can simply click on this icon and press H. Particles GPU is a particles generator, obviously. I'll tweak this component. You don't necessarily need to follow the exact numbers. Go with your own. Alright, we can see that particles are generated from a rectangle, and you can define its parameters in the particle source tab by translating, rotating, or changing the scale. You can even change the shape. So it works fine, but at some point you may want to use some external particle source, for example, an image. And let's add movie file in. So let's say I want this banana shape to spread the particles. There is an input called particle source in particles GPU, so it seems like I can simply connect this. There is something wrong with that, right? The thing is, this input wasn't designed for images. It was made for coordinates. It needs a set of XYZ coordinates to generate particles. For example, if we need to generate a point, we need 3 values. You may wonder why then it's a top input, but not chop. Let's look inside Particles GPU. You don't need to understand everything here. I just want to show you that the core of this component is this jelly cell shader, which calculates all the main parameters for particles. Their lifetime, speed, forces, and so on. All the math for each particle. It's a lot of data to process in real time, that's why it's done in shader, but not via Python or chops. The shader is a script or set of scripts like this that is being processed on GPU, which is much effective because GPU supports parallel calculations in opposite to the CPU, which supports only one calculation at a time. So how it relates to the topic? Well, shaders often use images as storages, not only for colors, but for other type of data: position, sometimes velocity, rotation, size. And once you get used to it, it's convenient because each pixel has 3 or 4 channels. So you can put X position value to the red channel, Y into the green, and Z into the blue. Alpha channel is often used as a mask. As you've already seen, such images look odd, but it doesn't have to represent the image, so don't be confused by its weird look. Let's get back to our setup, and Let's make something simple, like a horizontal line. To generate line positions, you need to interpolate values from the lowest to the highest on the x-axis, while keeping the y fixed. The easiest way to get these values is to add a ramp top, which outputs values from 0 to 1 for each channel. We perceive it as a black and white gradient. If we connect it straight away, it will interpolate values for each axis, but we need to separate x from y and z, so we can use a reorder top. It has 4 inputs, which are usually used as red or x, green or y, z or blue, and alpha channels. Since we need to interpolate just x-axis, we connect a ramp to the first input. And in the parameters window, we leave input 1 as it is, set green and blue to 0, and alpha is 1. And we got the line. If I were to draw a vertical line, I simply set output green to green and output red to 0. So it's vice versa. To redistribute points in a rectangular shape, I take a set of values from 0 to 1 for x-coordinate, going from left to right, and another 0 to 1 set going from bottom to top for y-coordinate. I'll just add a second ramp and set its type to vertical. Connect it to the second input and set a reorder like this. I just want to quickly show you that we can do pretty much the same with a grid SOP, just making some conversion. But SOPs are calculated on CPU, as far as I know, while textures are processed on GPU, so it's just more efficient to make this in TOPs. So the rest is simple. To make an image that has an alpha channel generate particles, we can simply connect it to the fourth input and set output alpha to input 4 alpha. To fix the aspect ratio, we can add a point transform top. It works like transform operator, but for tops. Let's take the width of our image and divide it by height. Now the aspect ratio is fixed, but the image got cropped. You may notice this also when changing the size or translating the particle source. The reason for that is that particles are spawned only within 0 to 1 values, and to increase this range we can change the bit rate of the source gradients to 16 or 32 bit float. To make the transformation more convenient, I'll just change the sequence of the operations. Let's add colors. Everything is simple here. And that's it. Now you can tweak particles GPU, you can create your own particle system, or maybe write a shader. It's a good point to start. And I hope you found this helpful and have fun. Bye!